What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, and super pumped for today's video because I'm actually reviewing one of my Grail knives. I originally checked this out about a month ago, a little over a month ago, over on KnifeJoy when they got them in stock, and ultimately decided not to pick it up for two reasons. One, I have this arbitrary rule that I don't spend more than $500 on a knife. Again, it's pretty arbitrary, just having a number in mind to set a budget for myself. But this knife was $505, only a $5 difference. Honestly, probably would have broken that rule had it not been for point number two, just because it is a Grail knife. But the second thing is I've just spent a lot of money on knives recently, probably upwards of $2,000 over the last 3 months on knives, not including this. And so felt like I needed to rein in it a little bit. And I had discussed it with my wife. She kind of agreed. I obviously can get it, but it might make sense to wait until a time when I haven't bought so many knives. And so that all might have been a ploy, because she ultimately ended up buying it for my birthday, which I'm extremely grateful for. Super excited to have this in my collection. And so this video, I'm recording it the night before, but it's probably going to go up on my actual birthday, meaning that I've had it in my hands for maybe a day and a half. We celebrated over the weekend, so only about a day and a half. So this is really going to be an initial impression, not a full review. I haven't had time to sit with it, use it very heavily. I've opened some packages with it and cut a few things, but haven't really had time to fully appreciate the knife to do a full length review. So again, just initial impressions here. I did disassemble it just to see what it looks like on the inside, cleaned it up a little bit, ran it across the strop, but it came with a nice factory edge, so no complaints there. But not gonna hold out any longer. I'm talking about the Reeve knives, small Sebenza 31. So this is probably on a lot of people's Grail list. Honestly, it's Reeve obviously has done a lot of innovation in the knife community, from S30VN to the frame lock, and they're kind of the gold standard for production knives in terms of fit and finish and just how well machined they are and well put together for a production knife. Now, it's not actually in the box. I guess that was just for dramatic effect. But I picked up the small Sebenza. The particular model I got, S35VN, drop point blade, double lug, meaning that it just has a thumb stud on both sides. Typically, it's only one side thumb studs, but I got the double. And it is titanium, but with the Black Canvas Micarta Inlay, and a born date here of March 31st, 2022. So the knife itself, initial impression was, obviously you've seen pictures and videos of them. I've seen the pictures before I ordered it, or before my wife ordered it, I guess. I'd seen the pictures, knew what to expect. It's a very sleek design. I think one of the more beautiful, just kind of production knives out there. It's really, really good looking. But it also feels like a premium knife when you get it in your hand. It just feels really, really good. And they're not known for being a fidgety knife, and for a good reason. They actually discourage you from flicking it open or doing like wrist flicks and stuff like that. They don't want you to use the knife that way. So they're really meant to be kind of slow rolled out like this, but I still find it to be very fidgety. The lockup is very satisfying. You get a nice click at it, and it's so silky smooth when you're opening it. There's no grittiness whatsoever. It just flows so smoothly that I could sit here all day just kind of slow rolling it open and closed. And in fact, that's pretty much what I did today. So I still find it fidgety, just in its own way. It's not one that you're flicking open and slamming shut and like a button lock or a flipper tab. It's not fidgety in that way, but it's still very fidgety. It's very satisfying and relaxing to just kind of open and close it. Now, I did get the double lug. It doesn't make much of a difference utility-wise. You can't access the back lug. It's kind of being blocked off by the lock bar, and the shape of it's a little bit weird. That's probably my only complaint about the knife, is the shape of the thumb studs, but you can't really get any purchase on there. I mean, a little bit, but not super well. Obviously, I kind of got it both those times, but it's very difficult to really get any purchase on this because it's so close up to the lock bar, and it's such a weird shape where only the top nub is being exposed. So more of an aesthetic thing. I do like the look better with it on both sides, but it doesn't add a whole lot of utility to it. The lock bar works incredibly well. It's got a ceramic ball detent on there, which gives it that satisfying click in the end. Early on with this knife, when they added that, it also added a little bit of up and down blade play, just kind of lock rock, which really upset a lot of people. They said it was more of a feature than a bug. It was just with that ceramic ball detent, it was something that added in but didn't affect the lockup itself, and so it wasn't something that they wanted to get rid of. But I think enough people complain that there's really no play whatsoever now. They've kind of cleaned that up and gotten rid of that. People will obviously, paying this much for a knife, don't want to have any sort of play in the blade, which is very reasonable. And so definitely don't have any now. I'm not able to get any play whatsoever, no matter how hard I wrench on that. Now, I went with the small Sebenza over the large because for me, it's kind of the perfect size EDC knife. I like in an EDC knife around a 3-inch blade. This one's 2.99 inches and around 7 inches overall. This one's 6.98 inches, meaning 3.98 inch handles, and weighs in at 3 ounces even, which is a nice weight to blade ratio. So that might be a little bit small for some people, but for me, it's kind of that Goldilocks zone, or right around that 7-inch and 3-inch blade mark. And that's mainly just because for the tasks I'm using it for, I don't do a lot of heavy cutting. It's mostly packages and food prep and threads and kind of light use tasks. And so if I were doing something more heavy duty where I need a beater, I definitely have those and I would take them. But for most days when I know I'm not going to be using my knife that much, I prefer something a little bit smaller. And so that's why I didn't go with the large. They had the large available, but this is the one that I really want because for me to spend this much on a knife, I want kind of my ideal use case, and my ideal use case is that about that size range. And so the blade itself, again, S45 VN drop point blade, really beautiful hollow grind on here. Came with a nice factory edge on it, and really sterile, clean design. There's no markings whatsoever on the blade. Obviously I have the thumb stud, but they don't stamp the steel on here or anything like that. Very clean, which I really appreciate. Crown spine, so another really smooth edge. Pretty much everything on here has very clean edges, no sharp edges, obviously the blade, outside of the pocket clip, which is a little bit of a sharp edge. It's not uncomfortable in the hand at all, so I don't mind that it has kind of sharper edges. If it created a hot spot, I definitely would, but it's pretty unnoticeable in this kind of hammer grip or even a more controlled grip or a pinch grip. You don't really feel that pocket clip whatsoever. At least I don't. Everyone's hands vary, so maybe you will feel it, but for me it's pretty comfortable. And I'm able to get a pretty loose 4-finger grip on here, just barely. If it were any smaller, my pinky would probably fall off a little bit, so if your hands are bigger, they might, and then you might utilize that lanyard a little bit more. But for me, I'm able to get a nice 4-finger grip on it. The lanyard, I'm not a lanyard person, I'll probably end up removing it, but it's well done. It's on this nice little pivot pin in here, so it moves out of the way while it's never really in your way. So as far as lanyard goes, it's one of the better done ones, but again, I'll probably end up removing it. Just thought I haven't had a folding knife with a lanyard on it in a long time. I never installed them myself, and so thought I'd give it a shot, see if I like it, but honestly, yeah, just not my thing. And if I were gonna keep a lanyard on here, I'd probably want one with some sort of bead rather than just like a plain black lanyard. So that might change eventually, but it doesn't bother me in any sense. And then as far as the handles go, I mentioned the blade, super clean. The branding on here is pretty minimal. You have the Chris Reeves logo right above the pivot here. Pretty subtle, it's a pretty small logo. A little bit less subtle on the other side is the Idaho made, but again, it's on the non-show side, so it doesn't bother me whatsoever. I did get the Black Canvas Micarta Inlays, which micarta is definitely not considered a premium blade scale material, so on a $500 knife is a little bit of an odd choice, but I really like the look of it, and it's really well done still. It's not like a tacky or grippy micarta, it's pretty smooth, polished, and chamfered really well, just like the rest of the knife. And so I think it looks nice, it feels nice, and really continues on with the titanium. The sandblasted titanium has a similar texture to it, so there's not like a big difference in what you're feeling, so that's nice. But all of these edges are really well chamfered, particularly around the lock. So it is a frame lock, and the frame lock itself is chamfered, so it's not like a sharp edge. Sometimes you get jimping there or just a sharp edge, so using the lock a lot will be uncomfortable on your thumb, but definitely not the case here. And then in order to access that, this has a nice cutout, but the chamfering's also a lot more dramatic right there around the lock bar cutout. And so really, really nice access to the lock that works really well. If I had any complaint, as I mentioned, maybe just the thumb stud they're not great. They're kind of an odd shape. It's like a little bit of a rounded pyramid shape with a tiny nub on there. And so if this were a knife that you flick open, you're not able to get a lot of purchase on it. But it works really well for slow rolling, no complaints really. I'm not going to bother changing them out. There's definitely, you can change them if you really want to avoid your warranty, but I'm not going to bother because it's not meant to be a flipping knife and it works well enough with that slow roll. But yeah, overall, really, really impressed with this knife. I'm probably not gonna, make it a habit of spending this much on a knife. Obviously, there's a point of diminishing returns. Does it do anything that a $300 knife doesn't do? Probably not. Maybe you're getting slightly better materials, but even at $300, you're probably able to get titanium and S45VN or even better steels out there. And so, definitely not gonna make a habit out of it, but I'm really glad that I got this. It's beautiful, well put together, and just super well machined. And honestly, just a Grail piece. It's like one of those pieces that you can pass on after you eventually die, which is very dark and morbid, I guess. But it's beautiful. It's going to last a lifetime. It's so well made, and they stand behind their warranty, obviously. As long as you're not modifying it, they encourage you to take it apart and maintain it well. And really, really loving it so far. Again, the only complaint I have is that thumb stud, and it's not even that big of a complaint because I don't mind it. I'm not going to replace it. But let me know down in the comments below if you have any Chris Reeve knives and what your experience has been with them. Also, just if you have any questions or anything else I should have talked about. Again, this is an initial impression, may or may not make additional videos. Again, if there's enough questions in the comments where I feel like I didn't talk about something, I may make a video, or if my opinion on something changes, I may make another video, but otherwise, probably not. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And as always, I hope you have a great one. Take care.